Alright, this is another one of our boring cooking videos about how we make sausage and spinach calzones. We don't have any fresh spinach yet, so we're going to start with some frozen stuff. And we like to use these sausages. We get these sweet sausages from Costco, so I usually use them and just cut them up. And they're really one of my favorite sausages. So if you have fresh spinach, you can just, take a pound of it and chop it up fine. But we're a little early for the spinach yet, so we just use one of these frozen blocks of the chopped spinach from the freezer case in your local store. So we just put that in a bowl, throw a little water in it, and then microwave it for like 5 minutes to defrost it and, get it ready. And then, like I said, I love these sausages from Costco. They've got the best flavor, I think. So I use them, and I just, they're in a casing, and I just split the casing open and peel them out of there to, just get at the meat. But you can use any kind of a bulk sausage if you, if you just buy regular Italian sausage, and depending on the flavor that you like, you can go with the sweet or you can go with the hot, or for that matter, you can put just about anything you want in these calzones. So, I just start with the sausages, and this is just an extra step because I like using this type of sausage, and just remove them from the casings. And it's kind of a rough job to do, but it doesn't take too long. Just have to slit them open and peel them out. I thought I'd show you these on Amazon. I found these nice silicone baking mats to put on the counter and protect the counter when I'm cooking bacon up. So it makes my wife happy when I don't leave a counter full of bacon fat. So I just put them out here to show you, and I'm just gonna take these sausages and throw them in a frying pan and start to chop them up and brown them up a little bit. So hopefully soon I'll get my wife a new set of utensils also to replace these 40-year-old cooking utensils we're still using. But it takes a little while to just chop it up and break it up into smaller pieces. And the good thing about those mats are when you're done, you can just take a sponge, and everything comes off them really easy with a soapy sponge, and just roll them up and put them away. You don't have to worry about using harsh cleaners on the granite. So that makes that helps keep everything a little bit cleaner. So now I just take the sausage that's been browned up a little bit, and I'm going to put that in a bowl to mix everything up in, and just try to get try not to get the little bit of grease that's left in the bottom of the pan there. Just try to get the meat out of there. And as I said, you can you don't have to limit it to just sausage. You can actually put other meats and stuff in there too. But we really like the sausage and spinach the best. And then that spinach has been cooling after being microwaved, so you have to try to get all the moisture out of it now and all the water out that was in there. So try to drain it, and then just grab it in your hand and squeeze it as hard as you can. Try to get it pretty much dried out, and that just goes in with the sausage there. And I have to warn you, this is not one of those, half-hour things you can make and, turn out in a half hour. It takes a while to put this and the dough together and everything. So now everything's in the bowl there. Just mix that up, and the next thing that gets added in is a small container of that ricotta cheese. You can use the skim one if you want. We like to use the whole milk one because it has a little more. I think it has a little more flavor and better texture in the calzones. So I splurge in here. So then it's just a matter of kind of mixing all these ingredients together, and that's pretty much basically the filling now. We always throw some grated cheese in, and it could be Lacatelle, or it can be Parmesan, or it all depends on what we have at the time in the freezer. So we'll just take the microplane and grate a bunch of that in there just to give it a little bit extra flavor. You can also throw the mozzarella in now too, but we like to keep that kind of separate. So this here is basically what we do for the filling. It's really just a pretty simple filling that we use, and you can add other spices and do what you want with it, but we kind of like it plain like this. And there it is. Now I made this beforehand, so I'm just going to stick this in the fridge for a while. And then we're going to get going on the dough. We like to use this Caputo 00 type flour. I'll give you a link to the dough recipe in the description. If you go to their website, they do have a recipe for it, but it starts with a 55-pound bag of flour, so I don't think you want to do that. But just take some flour, some yeast, some salt, and a little bit of water. And there's a kind of a sequence that it has to be done in. And, you know, that's really explained better on the link that I'll give you. But basically, my wife puts in most of the flour to start out with. I think it takes 4 cups, and she puts in like 3.5 or something, 3 to start out, and then add some salt and the little bit of yeast that they call for. So there goes the flour. And we found that for the calzones, we really like to use this flour. We can go either way when we do the pizza crust, but this kind of comes out best for us when we do the calzones. So she'll start by adding, like I said, most of the flour to the mixer. And if you're into making dough, one of these mixers is really just a wonderful thing to have around. So, you know, now she'll turn on the mixer, and she's going to add a little bit more dough at a time until it stops sticking to the side of the pan, she said. Anybody that makes dough, she says, will know what you're doing here. I don't really know what's going on, but so she also gets brave and sticks that spatula down in there. Now, one thing I know for sure, she'll never stick one in a blender again. She learned a lesson from that, but the mixer goes a little bit slower. So first you have to put the machine on slow speed and run that for like 2 minutes, and get enough flour in there that basically nothing is sticking to the sides of the bowl, she said. And that's when the flour is the dough is full and it won't take any more flour. So she just keeps on, you know, adding a little bit at a time and watching it. There you can see it's starting to, you know, thicken up and come free from the sides of the bowl there. So you do it for 2 minutes on slow speed and get it all mixed in here. And then you have to switch over once it gets to a, you know, point like this where it's not sticking anymore. You switch over to a fast speed and start running it for another 5 minutes, and then in the end you go back to the slow speed for another 2 minutes. And your best bet will be to just follow the link and you know, use the recipe in that link if you want to try this. Or, you know, basically you could use any kind of dough. You could buy some pre-made dough in a supermarket, or you could just make a regular pizza dough with, you know, just your standard flour. So any dough really will work. We just kind of prefer this one because it comes out, you know, pretty nice and crispy on the outside for these calzones. So now the dough's just about mixed up, and she really loves this proof setting on the stove. The stove, you just push the button there and it goes into the proper temperature to proof bread, and she's used it a lot. And you know, that's one of the features of this new stove. That's one of her favorites, I think. So the dough's just about done there. It's gone through all the different speeds and cycles, and it pretty much comes off that hook real easy when you get to this point. It is a little bit of a sticky dough though. It's not a, you know, a real dry like dough on the outside, so you got to fiddle with it a little bit to get it off. So that's really basically the hard part of making the dough. That's what takes, you know, it doesn't take a lot of time, but it just you have to know a little bit of what you're doing when you do it. So then just takes a bowl that's got some olive oil in there and just spreads that around, and then she's got this little plastic scraper thing for getting the bread out of to getting the dough out of the bowl there, and just kind of loosen it up and get everything free, because it is rather sticky at this point. And then just scrape it out into that plastic bowl to put in the oven and let it proof. So, as I said before, this is not really a quick process, because by the time you get done with all the proofing and everything, you wind up having close to 3 hours just in the dough. So, you don't have to work for 3 hours, but it does take that long. So there it is in the bowl she's going to proof it in, and you can see it's just a small pile in the bottom of the bowl there, and coated with oil now, and a little bit of plastic to keep it from drying out when it goes through the proofing. And then she just throws it in the oven, and it takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours for the proofing of it. So here we are 2 hours later, and pull it out, and there you can see it's expanded quite a bit, and it's kind of filling the bottom of the bowl there. So everything went well. So now it's time to start to divide it up into smaller pieces that can be used for the calzone shells. The first thing she does is dump some more of that 00 flour on the that silicone pad there, and then punches the dough a couple times to try and get some of the air out of it, and just moves it over onto that silicone mat there, so that she can just shape it into a shape that can be divided pretty much equally into the size shells that we need. Now she's going to start by dividing it into 8 pieces. Each one will make a one larger calzone, and what we do also is we also cut some of them into 2 calzones when we're getting ready to assemble them. So this does make quite a few of them when you're done. So she just takes that little dough cutter thing there and just divides it up into 8 pieces, and then it's a matter of stretching them. She just keeps stretching them around and poking them in the bottom there, and until she gets like a perfectly round little piece of blob of dough there, and that goes back on some parchment paper on a cookie sheet. Once these are all on the cookie sheet, they have to actually sit for another hour to finish up and be ready to roll out. And apparently, following all these these steps like this are required in order to have a good outcome with the dough. So she's just got a towel thrown over the first one there, and now she's got them all done, ready to sit again. She's going to take the 2 cloths that go over them, and she's going to wet them with a spray hose here and get them nice and damp, and then put them back over the each of them will go over 4 pieces of the dough there, and that just keeps it from drying out when they sit for the next rising period. So there's the first one, and then she's got she just uses a plain clean cotton dishcloth, and there you can see she finally found 2 more of those miniature orchids, so she's real happy about that. So they just sit on the counter now for about an hour, and here we are just about an hour later, and we're getting ready to put them together now. Like I said before, I like to just take some mozzarella and just put some slices in them instead of mixing it in with the rest of it. So I'm just going to just chop up some pieces of the mozzarella so I can add that later when I'm putting them together. And we got some cookie sheets with parchment paper on them, and the oven is going to be preheated to 450 for cooking these guys. So now it's time to start assembly, and she's going to take a piece of dough, and you can see they got a little bit bigger there, and for the first couple of them, first cookie sheet, we're going to actually cut that piece of dough in half and make some smaller ones. because sometimes you don't feel like having two big ones, or you just want a small one, and these will be eaten for a couple of days now, so it'd be impossible for us to finish them all in one meal. So she starts by rolling out the dough, and here's a little rolling pin that I made her especially for doing these guys. It's just about the right size and it's easy to handle for a piece of the dough this size. So she's got the first one done, and gonna put some filling in there now. I made the filling earlier, like you saw, and put it in the fridge, and it was kind of cold and stiff. So these things aren't going to come out too pretty. I should let it warm up a little bit, but I didn't think about that till it was too late. So the first couple of them I'm going to put together without any of the extra cheese in there. So just going to put some filling in and stretch it over. Now some doughs that you use, you're going to have to moisten the edge to get them to stick together, but this stuff usually sticks pretty good just by pushing it together a little bit with a fork. And you'll see later that I did get some blowouts when they cooked, but I guess that's to be expected. And there's the first one put together, and you can see they're not too pretty. They're a little bit lumpy just because the cheese is that filling mixture is just so cold. It's hard to smooth out good. If you get a little bit warmer, it'll just lay right down nice and flat. So we work together on these, and pretty much we can get the timing down so that I can fill them and fold them while she rolls the next one. So just like a little production line here, and really doesn't take too long to put them together like this. And as you can see, I'm not really too fussy about how they look. They're just kind of, I put them together whatever shape they are. And pretty much you can put any kind of, meat or cheese, or, make that filling however you want to go in them, and depending on what you like, the taste that you're looking for. But we like to keep them plain and simple, and there you saw I just throwing a couple little strips of that mozzarella on top there to melt in on top, and not mixing it right in there. So the first tray is just about done, and these are just kind of the smaller ones with the thinner crust on them and stuff, so they'll be a little bit smaller if you're not real hungry. So there's the first tray of them put together, and as you can see, they're not real pretty, but they will be good. So, and now we're going over to making the little bit bigger ones, while the first batch there goes into the oven to cook. So now we started out, we put them in a 450 oven, and we set the timer for 15 minutes, but they always seem to take longer. But we just wait for the 15-minute time to time out, and then watch them after that, and usually it takes around 18 minutes to cook them up. So that first tray is cooking. We're back to putting the second tray together, and same thing. These are a little bit bigger, a little bit more filling, and but they're basically the same thing. And if it all works out right, by the time you run out of dough, you're actually running out of filling, and you pretty much got them perfect. Now, basically, neither of us has any Italian blood in us, so it may not be the best way to make them. I'm sure other people have different ideas of how to make them and everything else, but this is basically the way that we kind of come up with that works best for us, and that we enjoy the flavor most. And you can pretty much see here how it really does make the assembling of them go real quick by just having two people working on them at the same time. You can pretty much keep the timing the same on both ends of it. So basically about 5 minutes later, we have the second tray all put together and ready to go in the oven. And There's that rolling pin that I made. It really works good for the size dough. And there's some of our sauce that we're cooking up. That was made 2 years ago from the tomatoes in our garden. And it does contain a lot of dark tomatoes, so it is really an excellent sauce. So at the 18-minute point, these guys are, basically ready and all cooked and ready to come out. So there's the first batch, and you can see that there are a couple blowouts in there where I didn't seal them good, but basically they came out good, and we're just going to throw the second batch in now and let them cook up. And you just want them to be turning a golden brown there, and make sure everything is warm right through. And there's the second batch all done and ready to come out. So now it's basically time to sit back and enjoy them. And there's what they look like. That's one of the better ones that I picked out, better looking ones at least. And there's that sauce. You can see how dark and rich that is from the dark tomatoes in the garden. And I just like to just kind of cut the calzone up and just dip it in the sauce as I eat it. And really was an excellent batch this time. So you can pretty much see how just a couple of simple ingredients. There's some spinach in the sausage, and you can make a really great tasting treat out of it. It does take some time, and the filling goes really quickly. It's the dough, waiting for the dough to rise and proof and everything else that takes most of the time, but I think it's really worth it just because they are just kind of like a special treat that you don't really make too often, but you really enjoy them when you get them. So now that it's gardening time, this will probably be the last of the food videos that I do, and just got a couple more things to clean up until I get back into some of the videos showing the garden going in this year, and exactly what we're planning and how the stuff that's in already is doing. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.